Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. And our guest today is Molly Hayward, who is the CEO and founder of a new feminine hygiene company called Cora. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Devin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. And I'm excited to hear your story. I mean, this is really kind of amazing stuff, but you've created a feminine hygiene company with really dual or triple social missions, but let's talk a little bit about them. Where does this all come from? Let's just hear the story from the beginning.
Sure. Well, so for me, it really started on a very fortuitous, unexpected trip to Kenya. So I was sort of at a crossroads in my life, in my career, and a friend pointed me to a nonprofit that was doing work in Kenya, helping girls go to school and helping build resources for women's health. And I talked to the founder, and she said, you know, we have one seat left on the plane. Would you like to come? And I said, absolutely. So I went, and it was incredible. This organization was pouring so many resources into making sure that girls could go to school. And then I would sit down and talk to them, and it would come out that they would just stay home for the whole week of the month during their period because they couldn't afford or access sanitary products. And so immediately the entrepreneurial light in my head sort of went off on entrepreneurs that I really admired, like Tom Shoes and Warby Parker, who had really pioneered this sort of reciprocal giving model with a for-profit business. And I thought, why not do this with products for women, and provide a better product for women here in the U.S. and provide a reciprocal giving opportunity where we could provide products to girls in need. And so, that was really the start of it. It started from a place of desire to make a social impact and seeing an opportunity to do that with this product. But the more I explored this industry here in the U.S., truthfully, I became really frightened and disappointed and angry, because I was learning that the majority of feminine products on the market here in the U.S. were made with synthetic materials or made with cotton that's been heavily sprayed with pesticides. And these are products that we're exposing ourselves to for a week every single month for 40 years of our lives. And
and during that period, 24 hours a day.
Exactly. And so I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. And I just went on this sort of journey of exploration throughout the entire sort of experience of your period. And what I wanted to do and what we've created at Cora is what we think is a very comprehensive solution to this experience that every woman has. So we've not only considered a woman's health in the creation of our products, but also how she manages her period when she's at home, how she manages her period when she's out at work at the office or running around chasing her kids, or as well as.
Do you have some of your packaging examples to show us?
I do, not right next to me, but I can certainly run and grab them.
But you created special packaging and branding around to address those particular issues, right?
Yes, we did. So with our subscription, every woman gets for free, as included in her subscription, what we call our little black box, which is a very chic sort of reusable storage container that she can sort of proudly leave on the back of her toilet or on her vanity. And it's not a ripped up box that's shoved under your sink. That's not convenient. That's not pleasant. It doesn't reflect the sort of adult, sophisticated woman. So that's one piece. We also created a chic vegan leather clutch that holds a day's worth of tampons. And so this is something that you can drop into your bag and it holds everything that you need. And I actually walked through the San Francisco airport with mine for the first time recently, and I just thought, this is incredible, because before I would have sort of slyly pulled a tampon out of my bag and shoved it up my sleeve, and this is like what every woman does. And here I was walking through a crowded airport carrying tampons, but nobody would have known. And even if they did know, I wouldn't have been embarrassed or ashamed, because our product is actually sophisticated and it's in line with the aesthetics of most adult women. I mean, traditionally products in this category have been, pink and flowered and patterned, and it sort of makes you feel like you're 12 years old again, and that's just not the reality. So, we're really, really proud of the elements that we've created that change not only the product itself, the core product, but also the overall experience. And
so Molly, I want to go back. I want to go back to your founding story just a little bit and dig in a little bit around the toxicity question.
Sure.
It is so scary to be thinking about the exposures that so many women, virtually all women, are experiencing with conventional products. What kind of data or anecdotes are you finding in terms of the effects of that toxicity?
Sure. Well, so, the first thing that I found out when I started doing research was that cotton is considered the dirtiest crop in the world. So cotton constitutes about 2% of all agricultural land in the world, and yet it uses 24% of the world's pesticides. So I was just absolutely stunned by that figure. And of course, these are chemicals and pesticides that are known carcinogens, that are endocrine disruptors, that have an effect on your hormones and reproductive health. They're extremely dangerous. And not only that, but when you're not talking about organic cotton, that industry is also very susceptible to things like child labor. And so it's this whole sort of ecosystem. And so when you think about a product like a feminine product, the unfortunate thing is that in this country, the regulation just isn't there to truly protect women the way that it should be. So testing of tampons is not required by the FDA. So there's been no long-term research on the effect of potentially being exposed to the chemicals that are sprayed on the cotton. There's no long-term research that's been done on exposure to the synthetics that are used in conventional products like rayon and polyester. And so it's really quite frightening to realize that woman you assume you can trust, but you do a little bit more digging and you realize that you really have to take responsibility for understanding, because really there's not much protection being applied to you at a higher level. So, it's something that I'm really passionate from a health perspective, because I think that if there's any indication of exposure to chemicals, that there deserves to be an awareness, and it's something that we should take very seriously. And so that's why we decided that unequivocally our tampons would be 100% organic cotton. It just was no question for us. It's just the purest material that you can use in this type of product.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you taking us through that analysis, because it is scary to think about. Now, you are applying an interesting model abroad. You've got a partner in India now, where you're buying pads from the partner. The partner is manufacturing them in distributed manufacturing units right out in rural villages. Tell us a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah, so we have an amazing partner in India at the moment called Reimagines, and they are a social enterprise organization that has built small-scale manufacturing units for a compostable sanitary pad that they've developed. So this is a plant-based pad that can be made in these small units, and the units are set up in rural villages or urban slums, and they employ local women who might be able to find employment. They employ women who would have been employed in the sex trade. And so it's this very holistic model. And what we do is essentially purchase the products that they've produced and then distribute them to girls in local schools. And so it's not like we're shipping our own product over to India and saying, here you go, make this work. We've found a partner who created a solution for the women in their country, in their community, in their culture. And we essentially their business by purchasing from them and then distributing them locally. So it's, to us, an empowerment model instead of just a welfare model. And it's truly incredible. I mean, not only for the women who are able to be employed, but also the girls who receive the pads. The dropout rate among girls who receive pads decreases by 90% when they're provided, usually skin. And I think, we all know that the key to poverty alleviation, particularly among women and girls. And, this is one aspect of life that's just completely essential and natural. But in so many cultures, because it's very taboo, there's not been historically a lot of solutions. And so this is a really amazing holistic solution that we're just thrilled to be a part of, frankly. And our partner is just doing amazing things in India, and they've actually just opened their first unit in Kenya. They're expanding rapidly because the world is realizing that this is a really important and vital issue to address.
Well, Molly, I want to take advantage of the opportunity while I've got you to ask you a couple of somewhat more personal questions. Although I'm not sure we can get much more personal than what we've been talking about, come to think of it, but you're clearly a role model, very successful young woman, and yet I wonder who inspires you as a role model.
That's a great question. I feel like it changes sort of day to day, and I just meet so many people who are incredibly inspiring, and it's certainly not been an easy road getting to this point, and we're still hustling pretty hard. But because I recently started learning more about a Brazilian chef named Alex Atala. I don't know if you've heard of him, but I was so inspired by him recently because I had heard of him before, and then I started reading an article about him, and he's this very well-known chef in Brazil, high cuisine. He's really elevated Brazilian cuisine to a new level, and he has a really successful restaurant in Sao Paulo. But the thing that I really admired about Alex was that he actually has leveraged his sort of status as a chef and his business to social enterprises in the Amazon to support the Amazonian people. And so he's created social enterprises that harvest chili peppers, and then it's turned into powder, and then he can sell it in through his restaurant in Sao Paulo. And so he's just created this gate, but he's also kind of a total renegade badass. And there's like this freedom about him, and it really just seems like this love of his country and this passion for food and people and sort of the interconnectedness of that runs through everything he does, from his restaurant to his personal passions to like the impact that he's making in the world. And so I just off the top of my head, that's just somebody I've been thinking about a lot, because I really thought, this is incredible. He didn't have to do this as a chef. He was very successful, and he saw something precious that he loved being created, that being the Amazon. And so he went and he did something about it. And it was really, really very authentic to me. So I admire that. And that's certainly something that I feel I share, and want to emulate.
Yeah. I hear you. Now,
Yeah.
Molly, you could be doing anything. You're brilliant, talented, young. Why do you feel this personal responsibility to you told the story of going to Kenya and seeing the young women, but why did you feel personally responsible to them? I understand why they needed help. Why the personal responsibility?
I pretty poor. My family wasn't very wealthy, and my parents gave us every opportunity they could and worked incredibly hard and were always extremely supportive of us. And along my journey, so I guess in certain ways I've struggled, and along my journey, so many people have helped me, just completely out of the goodness of their hearts, and just because they saw something or a potential. And truly, I think when I went to Kenya, I had gotten to a point in my life where I felt really grateful to have everything that I needed, and a lot of things that I had wanted for a long time. And I think I felt a responsibility as someone relatively privileged to pay it forward in a way. And I think it really, it was so core and so central to have this, that this is a girl that I would have never met. And yet we share this very, very intimate experience, and that's menstruation. And this is an experience that I share with all women around the world. This is a common thread among all of us. And I think that for me, it was just so clear that this was a really important and strong connection point. And if I could use whatever, privilege I had to someone else and to pull somebody else up the way that I had been helped up in so many ways, that I had to do that, and that I wanted to do that, and that it brought me great joy and a sense of purpose. And I think, for most of us, we want to do something that makes the world better. We want to help people. And so for me, it was just this incredibly strong feeling, and I realized it was just something I couldn't not do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Molly, we're out of time. But before we go, please tell us how people can learn more about Cora, get the products, and connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can find us online at cora.life, Cora.life. And you can reach me directly by email at molly@cora.life.
Fantastic. Well, Molly, again, thank you very much for being with us. And we wish you every success in helping young women and not young women around the world with their monthly needs.
Thank you so much, Devin. It's just been a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Let's do some good.